Hi and welcome to IT Chronicles 10 in Tech. I'm Kirstie Magowan and we're coming to you from Knowledge 17. My co-host today is Carlos Casanova.
Hello, Kirstie.
And it's our pleasure to be sitting here with Mark Bodman from ServiceNow. So Mark, I understand you're involved in the IT4IT area within ServiceNow, looking at how you're getting involved in that. So where are you with that? What's happening in ServiceNow in relation to that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I've been working with the IT4IT Framework for about 3 years, previous to ServiceNow. I've been with ServiceNow since November.
Right.
And so for the last 3 or 4 years, I've been working with the standard in my previous employer. Right. And I'm currently the chairman for the adoption work group on the standard, under the open group. So that's keeping me very busy, and I'm doing a lot of, I would say, evangelization and education of the standard internally. And my business unit, IT Business Management for ServiceNow, we've mapped most of what we do here into the standard to see where our gaps or our opportunities to improve are.
Okay, so what have you identified that you can pick up on?
That you can share.
Yeah, that you can share, yeah.
Yeah, and that's no problem. I'm pretty transparent. But I look at what strategy portfolio really means, and it's really understanding your business strategy and the portfolio of services you need, right?
Yes.
This is really up our alley here at ServiceNow and my business unit. What we don't really have is the way to articulate business strategy really well today. Right. So we're making investments throughout the year to kind of get better about that. The other investments we're going to be making is in the area of enterprise architecture. So be able to flesh out technology portfolio management and be able to leverage APM more in an architecture use cases.
Oh, we'll look forward to seeing where that comes
to. You know, some people may not be that familiar with IT4IT, what it is. You know, and I know it's a big thing. You probably go on for days about it, right? But in a very brief way, can you kind of like just describe what its purpose is?
Sure. It's a new, I would say, prescriptive standard to automate IT from end to end. There's a lot of standards out there, you know, COBIT, PMI, ITIL, of course, IT Service Management, SAFE, you name it, right? Sure. And so the attempt was to kind of consolidate all of those into one overarching framework. And that's what this does. So now every one of those standards has a place in the framework, but now the framework kind of highlights certain areas from the functional architecture and data architecture. How does all this stuff come together? And then also at the operating model level. And we just did a survey of our folks that have downloaded the standard, and we found a bifurcation. There's a lot of folks using it for tooling, you know, to understand how their tools are supposed to be integrated at an implementation level. But more folks are actually using it as a new digital business operating model. It's, you know, if their entire business is service oriented, right? They're applying it to basically streamline, automate their entire digital business. And we're forming a new work group specifically on that. And in Berlin, we had a IT paradigmologist.
So we're creating new words too.
New words. Okay. It was really interesting, but yeah, he actually had taken an operating model for businesses and really showed how IT4IT serves as a digital business operating model. It was really compelling.
Interesting. So, I mean, I spent time on the architecture side. So talk a little bit about that, because I mean, I don't think that's an area that we really spend a lot of time looking at. You know, how it plays in that enterprise architect space. And the benefits that they can get out of that.
Yeah, so there's a bit of a cobbler's children have no shoes situation for most IT organizations.
Any of us that have been there, we know.
Yeah, we know. We don't really adhere to the things we preach, right? No. But the way I like to think about it for enterprise architecture over IT organizations is it gives you that data and functional architecture to understand how IT needs to work together, right? All the functions. One of the compelling things about ServiceNow, the reason I'm here, is because we can deliver most of it.
Right.
Not everything. No one vendor can still do everything, right? Obviously, but we have most of it. And there's a concept in the architecture called the service model backbone, which is how do you describe a service conceptually when you first think of it, and then all the way through delivery and operations. And IT4IT basically has a very nice definition for that service model backbone. We actually can implement it because we have one CMDB.
Right.
It collapses the backbone into just one, set of service definitions and one CMDB that you just have a life cycle to manage.
Right.
That's it.
Right.
So sorry. Every once in a while we'll step on each other.
Yeah.
But so you talked about APM as well.
Yes.
So it seems like you're just taking those pieces that, like you said, are already being done, sort of in more disparate and more siloed environments, and really trying to put that glue together.
Absolutely. Absolutely, we have a CMDB, and then we have all these different products that basically circle that CMDB, and then as you know, we're getting into HR and customer service. We're getting way outside of where traditionally IT is our customer, and so what we're seeing is this need to go into the strategy area and to be able to facilitate the integration between these. There's a functional integration that needs to occur, right? How these products interact with one another and workflows, but there's also a data integration, which we force because it's a common data model. And that's what's compelling to me, very compelling.
Right, and I mean, and that's the thing that we've been hearing quite a bit, especially with the ESM discussions, how these are things, and they have similar characteristics, but the data itself is different. So why do we and why have we, for all these years, treated them differently or excluded them from our discussion? And it seems now that we're finally saying, hey, that box, whatever you want to call it, we used to call it a server or a router. Now it's a production line item, or it's it's an HR device or whatever. Why have we excluded that from the discussions?
That's right. Well, and I think there's this idea of convergence comes to mind. As folks are realizing we're all kind of doing the same thing, we're just calling things differently. And I'll give you an example. On the EA space, we don't have a concept of CMDB or CIs, right? We call this what we do, creating an architecture continuum. But on the operations space, it's a CMDB, and they don't know each other. It's foreign languages between the two, and I call that the bookends of an IT shop, right? And we need to converge that into something new and evolved from both of those concepts.
Yeah, I mean, having a common language is actually, when you're speaking different languages, it's very hard to understand where the other side's coming from.
Absolutely, and we all matter.
Yes,
I mean,
we
every
do.
job matters, but the problem is, you work in an area, you may not, it's like you have blinders on. You just don't know these other areas exist. And in the larger the organization, the more isolated you become. So I find IT4IT is a nice single page, and as an enterprise architect, the job is to describe a complex situation on one page. If you can do that, you've done your job, and you can get people to make decisions and understand a complex situation.
Because, I mean, the principles, and that's the thing that's always been amazing for a lot of us that have had these kind of conversations for years. And maybe, obviously we were part of the issue that we weren't communicating it properly. But
I say, Carlos, IT people are very good at communicating.
Technical things maybe, not in business terminologies maybe.
But the principles have always been the same. Whether it's that you said that business person or the IT person, in principle, they were doing the same exact thing. The target of it was different, but they were trying to get the same thing: the consistency, the continuity, the reliability. It's like, oh, those sound very technical in nature, don't they?
That's right. That's right. But the way I think of it, I simplify the situation like going to the dentist, right? When you go to the dentist, you've got a toothache. They have all kinds of tools that you don't even want to understand because they'll scare you and you'll never sit down. And I think a lot of folks expose their inners, all the complexities of what they do, instead of just focusing on the outcome that they need to achieve, with their constituents there, internal or external.
Positive business outcomes. Have we heard that term?
Yeah,
it's common.
I've heard that before,
it's very common. I mean, and if everybody thinks that way, everybody would do better, right?
Exactly.
I think that's the key.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. Glad to have you on, and I look forward to seeing the progress you guys are making with that.
I'm excited. And thanks for having me.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.